Welcome into the Bluegrass Burnouts YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 power rankings that we have after week 3 going into week 4. Cody, I will start us off here. My number 10, I have William Byron. He has ran strong so far this year. He is good at COTA. He has won Daytona 2 times, obviously. He has won an Atlanta race. So a couple tracks are his wheelhouse. He has not had the best finishes yet, but he does have 2 top 10s on the year. One at Daytona, I believe, and the other one was at COTA this past weekend. So not the strongest start to the year for him, but he's ran good. He's put himself in the position to be there at the end, and that is why I have him at my number 10.
Yeah, man, I think that's completely fair as well. He's not on mine, just to spoil it.
That's fair. I
But I
was
do want
very,
to,
very, very like it was between him and 2 other people that I was like, I don't know who to put here, and I
yeah,
strictly just went off of who's had a better year so far.
yeah, I'll be totally real. I was in the exact same spot, but for Byron, I think my thing is even this week is especially like obviously I'm kind of lax on performance for the first two, given that they're drafting tracks. There's a lot of accidents, a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily your fault that you can get caught up in. And I think the problem for not necessarily the problem, but I just expected more out of him this week at a track where he's run really well, and I just didn't. He wasn't didn't run bad by any means. Just would definitely have liked to see more, but he's definitely one of those guys that you're on the lookout for every week. Like his reputation has not dropped off at all. But at my 10, I've got SVG. And obviously, he had a great week this week. Finished second, was absolutely contending for the win. But the reason I decided to put him on here is not just because of this week, but how he started. He has had an excellent start to the year, especially Atlanta, that last race. Spun through the grass twice and was still able to recover and have a great finish. Like obviously he's the road course guy. He's the guy that you expect to win on a road course. And he started off the season with two pretty good races on those ovals. And now he's sitting here. You've got him sitting at fifth in points after an 11-point jump this week. That is a great spot for him to be in. And it's going to be really interesting to see if he's really picked up on those ovals this week at Phoenix, or if that was just the luck of the drafting track. But like you kind of said, there were a couple guys that really could have fit in this spot, but I'm going SVG.
Yeah, and that is I totally agree with that, Cody. That's one of the guys that I was on the fence about. Here, for my number 9, I'm going with Brad Keselowski. Brad K has had a pretty good start to the year, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, sitting at 12th in points. Did move down a little bit after this weekend. This wasn't the best weekend for him, road course wise. He's not the best road course guy. He's not the worst, but he's not the best road course guy ever. He's just one of those guys that, it's nice when he's up there for a road course, but honestly, it's kind of surprising if he is. No offense to him. He's a way
Hey,
better driver than I am. But Brad K, he is sitting there. He's sitting there at my number 9. I like where he is, and that's why I put him right there.
yeah, I think he's one of those guys that kind of like we talked about earlier, always has a chance. He's going to be a quick car. Just rough last couple weeks. Rough last couple weeks. At my 9, I've got Zane Smith. He dropped 3 spots from last week, and to be totally honest, I don't think he dropped as far from me because of how he finished or because of how he ran, but just because of how he finished. He was looking really well. I think first stage he finished 13th. A lot of that is kind of the guys in front of you that pit. But after that, he was involved in a couple incidents. He just wasn't able to pick it up to the spot that he had been. He dropped a bunch of spots points wise. He dropped 9 down to 14th. And it was rough kind of dropping him that far because I am a huge fan of his. We were just talking about it, like how well he started off this year. And I just want to be able to highlight that this was not a bad race for him. He wasn't running bad. Like he was running well, was kind of contending with the guys that he's supposed to contend with. You know what I mean? And you have those unfortunate incidents. You get the finish that you do. And, that just kind of ends up, it is what it is for him. But he's
Yeah.
absolutely still off to a good start to season and hopefully he can pick it back up.
Yeah, yeah, you will see Zane Smith later on my list here, but Cody, I have at my number 8, I have Chris Buescher sitting at my number 8. I was really torn on where to put Chris Buescher and Brad Kay and who I should put above the other one. Brad Kay does have a top 5. Buescher does not this year. He only has top 10 so far. But Buescher also has just slightly just more points. That is why I put him above Brad Kay on mine. And, again, it's like Brad Kay. They're basically, they're super similar. Obviously, they're teammates. Brad's the owner driver, but very similar in the concept that they both have put themselves in the position. It hasn't, there's been a little bit of luck issue, but they've looked good so far. They've looked fast, and that's why I have them both there.
Yeah. And I do just want to go ahead and talk about this, not to spoil the rest of my list, but the RFK cars are off of my top 10 this week.
Really?
And I that was kind of something that I struggled with, but last week, or I think week 1, I had them at like 5 and 6, 4 and 5, like really high up. And then week 2, they had a rough week, just weren't running where we expected them to be. And it wasn't even like incident problems. They just didn't seem to have it that week. And so I dropped them a couple spots. I think they were at 8 and 9, or I think it was 7 and 8. And then just another week where, and this, I wouldn't say that this is a track where I expected to see them, but yet again, just didn't have it. And unfortunately, I think there were some guys that had it and were looking really good both this week and last, and just the entire season, and also guys that I think are going to be able to continue. So I feel a little harsh dropping them so far, but they're just on the outside there, can absolutely hop back anytime. I just want to give them that little bit of shout out, and like they're still there. Like these guys aren't gone, but we're dropping them out for this week. At my 8, new to my ranking, Kyle Larson.
Hmm.
And this is a
Interesting.
name I honestly can't believe that we haven't said yet.
That's
Like
very
it's
true.
it's it's one of those things that's like that's the guy. Like it's just kind of how it is in this sport. Like he is genuinely one of the best drivers in the world in motorsports. And we haven't said his name yet. And this week he went out and had a great run. COTA, I wouldn't necessarily say is a track that I would pick him for. I wouldn't say that that's one where really fits into his strengths. But man, he ran out and had a great race. I would say he definitely finished the best of the Hendrick cars. But apart from Chase, I think most of the day he was running top of the Hendrick cars. Like he was leading these cars. When you have Chase behind you, that's a guy who's absolutely phenomenal on road courses, or at least has been in years past. He's kind of on a slump right now, but that's a guy that you'd love to see up there. And Larson was able to not only keep up but outrun the 9. And it goes a lot into luck on the super speedways. Those also aren't his forte. He's only at 15th in points. He jumps up 6 spots this week. But a big part of why he's here is because he ran so well this week. But also, I have complete faith in him going forward.
Yes, 100%.
Complete faith in him going forward. He's one of those guys that you knew wasn't going to be off the list for long. It just mattered of when. And I think this is the time. I think this is the time. I think this week, him being able to go out and be as fast as he was at COTA, I think sets him up for great things, and wouldn't be shocked to see him shoot up these lists next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. I was thinking about that whenever I was making mine. I'm like, we haven't said Kyle Larson yet, but
Yeah,
he is one of
dude.
those
That when
guys.
I saw that, I was like, yeah, he did have a top 10 finish this week. I can't remember. I think he was just outside the top 5. Yeah, finished 6th.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I can't believe we haven't said it yet. But like I said, and I'm just gonna go ahead and preface this, like my 6 to 10. Let's be real, my 6 to like 15 were all guys where I could have arguments for putting them higher or putting them lower. Like it was genuinely a tough decision to make this week, but I think a big, like I said, big part of that is I have complete faith in him going forward. So we'll see if he's able to keep that going.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's the same thing with me, Cody. I am very, very conflicted about these guys. There's so many guys who you could have up here, and so many guys that you could make a solid argument for anywhere from, like you said, like 15th to like 5. Like realistically, we could make a top 15 power rankings. It would take forever the way that we
As
do it
it
right
would
now,
be.
but let's go into so we are on number 7. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Number 7, I have Zane Smith. Zane Smith is one of those guys, 2 years ago he came into the Cup Series after having a very good career in the trucks, and he struggled. That's just the best way to say it. He struggled. Year
Yep.
2 got a little bit better. Year 3 so far has been phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Looking at the standings right now, you look at Zane Smith, he's sitting in 14th, but that is, and he has 2 top 10s. He dropped 9 spots this week, unfortunately, but he did, in that final restart, he was running in the top 10 again.
Yeah.
And he's one of those
Absolutely.
guys that in years past, if you saw him running in the top 10, it's like, oh, that's great. Like, great for that guy. But now he is really starting to come into himself. Same thing with Riley Herbst. Riley Herbst is not on my list, but he's getting to that point as well. And
I think he just needs another year, man.
I think he does. Yeah, I think both of them need another year. For now, though, it's nice to have Zane Smith up here. I truly believe that he would have finished in the top 10 if he didn't. He didn't really get dumped, but he got caught up in an accident that bumped him very far down the standings on
Yeah.
that last restart. But if it wasn't there, I don't think he would have won the race because Tyler Reddick just had a mean, fast car. But he definitely would have gotten a top 10, and he definitely wouldn't have dropped 9 points in the standings out of the top 10.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's why I have Zane Smith at my number 7.
Yeah. My number 7, I have Ross Chastain. And another guy that didn't have the finish this week. And this is kind of the opposite of my Zane. And I think not even the opposite. Honestly, they kind of ran the exact same. Zane kind of had that top 10 going, was running where he should, like, honestly, ahead of where he probably should be, and then got taken out at the end. Ross was arguably could have won this race. Like, he had some good speed. He won stage one. Obviously, a lot of that was pit strategy, but like, was a guy that was contending in the top 5, in the top 10 pretty much all day, and then, loses a wheel. And I think a big thing for me is when kind of deciding who to put up and who to put down, it wasn't his fault. And, you lose a wheel, it's one thing that happens. But I think the thing with Zane is I moved him down an extra spot for Larson. And that's simply just because, I think obviously Larson's a better driver. I have more upside on Larson, more faith in Larson to be better. But just Chastain was running so well this week. He had a great week, and putting him at that 7, I feel like he genuinely could have moved. He could have moved up. He could have moved down. You have an argument there. And I think that's part of why it was so difficult. But all I can really tell you at the end of the day is Ross had a great week. He just didn't get the finish that he needed. And, looking at points, he's sitting, 20th now after that, after losing the wheel. And it puts him in a bad spot. And honestly, I probably could have moved it around a little bit, but this is what I settled on. And it is all to play for in the next coming weeks. It's going to be super, super difficult going forward.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens with Ross this year. Ross is one of those guys where he quietly does really well, especially in the when and you're in format. I'm interested to see how he does in the new form, not the new format, but the new format. Just to
This
see,
year,
yeah, this year. But I'm interested to see how he does, and I'm very interested to see what happens because he definitely could be one of those guys that could sneakily get into the chase and win it if he really, really wanted to. Especially because
absolutely.
he's kind of known for having like really big late season pushes like he did
Yeah,
with
second
the Hail
half
Melon.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a very second half guy. And then for my number 6, Cody, I'm going with Carson Hocevar. Carson Hocevar, again, not the best weekend for Carson Hocevar. He is still sitting in the top 10. He did drop 6 places this week, but the guy does have a top 5. He's got a top 10 through 3 races. He's looked strong. I mean, Carson is a good drafting track racer, but he is looking strong. Again, not the best weekend this weekend for him, but he's one of those guys too that I'm not sure if I can have him up here forever. So I'm going to appreciate while he's here. And that's the reason why I have him here. I think he deserves to be up here, though. I think you can make an argument for how fast his car has been this year.
Oh, absolutely.
That he should be in the top 6 of this. But I couldn't put him over some of these other guys that are having just much better seasons than him so far.
Yeah, kind of in the similar spot for me because he's at my 6. And kind of all you just said, he didn't have the week this week. I dropped him a spot here, and kind of like I said, I already said this earlier, my 6 to like 15, as much as there are different guys in different positions, like Larson could have moved up, could have moved down. Smith could have moved up, could have moved down. Hocevar could have moved up. Honestly, let me switch that around. Hocevar, I don't think could have moved up because I do believe that all of the guys I have ahead of him are, like, as of now, better. But like could have moved down. Like Chastain could have moved up, could have moved down. All of these guys, it was kind of really difficult and kind of a spur of the moment decision of like who goes where, who do I feel more comfortable with having in this spot. But at the end of the day, Hocevar has had the speed so far. Obviously, those are just drafting tracks, but he's had the speed. He's been in contention for the win each of the first 2 weeks. And I think that's such a good start to drop him so far this early, especially after one run. But if that continues to sputter, who knows? But as of now, 77 sitting at my 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Sitting at my 5, Cody, I have Joey Logano. And my top 5, I struggled where to put these guys. Joey's got a top 5. He's got a top 10. Just with the massive season that Tyler Reddick has, he's sitting at 96 points back in 6th place after 3 races, which is just absolutely insane to say. But Joey Logano, I got him at my 5, mainly because he's been strong, but he's another one of those guys. He's a strong guy. I completely trust him to get it done. I completely trust him as the season goes on. And he just hasn't had the best luck lately. He did get that top 10.
Absolutely.
I believe it was at Daytona where he got, I believe he was caught up in an incident near the end of the race, and that derailed him a little bit. But again, he's one of those guys that I trust. He's sitting in the top 10 in points, almost in the top 5. And that is why I have him at my number 5.
Yeah, man. And not much I can add. He's sitting in my 5 as well. Like you said, he's had a good start, had some accident luck here and there, but overall has been running pretty well. A top 15 this week, which for him, I would honestly consider pretty good because, you think about going to a track like COTA. I wouldn't have Logano in my top 10. So honestly, going out there and getting that top 15 is a pretty good spot for him. Not trying to say like he overachieved or anything. I'm not expecting a 20th out of him. But I'm also not looking at that finish and going, yeah, that's a problem. Like, not enough to drop him super far. I did drop him a spot here, but genuinely just not much more I can say. Like you said, he's a guy that I have faith in. He's a guy that I believe in. Still sitting top 10 in points. Like, it's just, at the end of the day, he's a guy that can always go out and get it done. And this is why I'm so excited going into this week, because he's another guy who can go out and get it done this upcoming race at Phoenix. So it's all still to play for, but right now sitting at the 5.
Yeah. My number 4 is Ryan Blaney. Now, I really struggled where to put Blaney compared to Logano. Blaney is sitting higher on points, but if you look at how their years have gone, Joey does have a top 5. Blaney does only have 2 top 10s. So, I try to take that into consideration as well. But I ultimately decided to put him above him, mainly just because he is a little bit separated on points. Blaney's looked strong recently. Again, Joey does have that top 5. He doesn't, but Blaney also hasn't had the best accident luck either. but his car looks strong. It looks good, and that is why I have Blaney at my number 4.
And that is why I have Blaney at my number 4.
It
Um,
are we about
Not
to
much
have?
more.
Are we about to have the
We're
same top
we're
6?
looking really close. We are looking really close right now. But man, it is. Gosh, I, like you said, there's not a huge argument. You can have an argument either way for this, but it's pretty plain and simple for me. Blaney, higher in points, had a better run this week. He goes above him. And I definitely understand the broadness of the season, but obviously we're only 3 weeks in. It's kind of difficult to argue that right now, especially with the type of tracks that we have ran. So my big deciding factor was he's higher in points. He's higher. He had a higher finish this week. He had a much stronger run this week. Blaney's at the 4.
Yes. Yes. My number 3, Cody, and my 3 and my 2, I struggled so much with this.
Absolutely.
I struggled so much with it. But in the end, I went with Bubba Wallace for the pure fact that Chase Elliott, through 3 races, has a top 5 and 2 top 10s. Bubba Wallace is at my 3, Chase is at my 2. Bubba has 2 more points. Chase has a better finish. Bubba, technically you could say he's a little bit more consistent. I think Chase's cars looked a little bit better, especially this weekend too. If you look at the COTA finishes, I believe Chase finished better than Bubba this weekend. That is why that's why I have Bubba at 3. That's why I have Chase at 2. We might as well just say that.
And that is why I have Bubba at the 3 and Chase at the 2, because they're interchangeable. They are 2 points
100%.
separated. They are 2 points separated. I count that as even, especially with how this is. You've got 2 drafting tracks. You could literally go either way. If one of them gets into an accident, yeah.
Let's be honest. If Bubba did not get caught behind William Byron at Daytona, there is a very solid chance that Bubba would have won the Daytona 500 over Tyler Reddick, just with the position that he was in. Or Chase could have won. Maybe Chase would have won that race.
Yeah, maybe Chase wins that race.
Maybe Bubba would have pushed Chase. Who knows?
Okay, no.
No, he wouldn't. No, I know. He
definitely wouldn't have.
That would have been hilarious. That would have been hilarious.
He's pushing the person that isn't his teammate. He would have been fired on the spot. That's what would have happened.
And Hendrick would have picked him up.
Oh, no, that definitely wouldn't have happened. But no, he definitely had a strong chance to win that race. It ends up going the way that it goes. But when it came to the deciding factor here, they're so close in points. Chase just had kind of like Blaney and Logano. Chase just had the better run this week.
Yeah.
And if I could say that Wallace has been more more consistent, because he's looked really great this season. He's sitting at 3rd in the power rankings. Don't let that take him down any. But you put him in that spot. Chase has a better week. They're so close in points. It puts him just above him for me. But literally, you could make the argument either way. But you know what you can't make an argument for?
Why we both don't have. I was going to say BJ McLeod, but I realized that he wasn't. He's not eligible for the championship.
Unfortunately, not. That's my goat. Though. That's my goat. Every time I go to a race and BJ is running, I always secretly cheer for him just to have a great day. Because that's my. Everyone loves a good underdog story, and also he's such a genuine guy. I feel like. Obviously, I don't know him, but every time you see him talking, in an interview on radio, he just feels like such a genuine guy. And it takes a lot of dedication to go in and just be able to run back of the pack pretty much anytime you're in a race. But to just
especially run without a sponsor too.
Yeah, do it for the love of the game.
Yes.
Honestly, BJ just does it for the love of the game. I respect everything that he does. And, unfortunately, he's just outside of my top 10.
Yeah, he's just outside of mine as well. However, Tyler Reddick is not outside my top 10. He's at number 1.
Tyler Reddick.
There is no... If you don't have Tyler Reddick at your number 1, what are you doing at this point in the year?
If you don't have Tyler Reddick at your number 1, you're not doing a power ranking.
No, you're not doing a proper one.
You're not. You're not doing anything right. We can only glaze what he's done so much. but Tyler Reddick has, he's literally, it's history.
It is
He's
history.
made history. Like, you can only say so much about it. He's done history. He's won 3 races to start the season, and he's not done it in, like, by close wins. Obviously, you've got drafting tracks, and those are going to result in close finishes. But he's felt like a big time contender in all of the races. Like, it's not like he's been like a guy that's like a come from behind victory or a guy that you're like not looking at, but he's running up at the front during these races, putting himself in position when it matters most and going out and getting it done. And then this week, just pure dominance from the 45 team. We talked about this last time. This was his first week to really show what he can do and how well he can run on a not drafting track. And we knew that this was a track that he could go out and win at. And man, he went out there and proved it, sat on the pole, got off to a rough start, right in that first stage, started to pick it up at the end of the first stage, and then it was history from there. Dominated stage 2, dominated stage 3. Even SVG wasn't able to get around him. Tyler Reddick is off to a masterful start. And, we talked about this in the last episode here. It's going to be really interesting to see how he does at Phoenix. Notoriously a track that he's not the greatest at. But with the confidence that team has right now, you have to imagine it's not out of the picture. You have to imagine.
No, it 100% isn't out of the picture. But the other thing about it as well, Cody, is if you really look at it, it is now, all it takes is 2 bad weekends. But realistically, for a team like 23XI and a guy like Tyler Reddick, who has become more and more consistent as the years has gone on, all it takes is really for him 2 bad weekends now. But realistically, he's going to be running at least in the top 15 a majority of races. It's not completely it's not completely done, especially aren't they eliminating the points after is that how they're doing it this year? Because I heard talks of that. I don't know exactly how they're doing the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, playoff points, I believe, are gone. So then when we get to the chase, it's going to just be a complete reset.
Yes.
I think it's 2,100 points for whoever's the regular season points leader.
Yes.
And then it just kind of gets decreasingly lower, but in smaller increments.
Yes, exactly. Sense. But we're getting to a point where it seems like we're drifting closer and closer to the year that Kyle Larson won his first championship, and you look at how he's running and you say, if he doesn't win the championship, something has to change. Now, it's a little bit different now, but realistically, if Tyler Reddick wins 2, 3, maybe more races this year, how do you not say he doesn't deserve the championship? Because it's going to be hard for anybody to catch him with 3 wins. Now
I think the thing for me is, sorry, not to cut you off.
You're good.
But my take on this is, I was a supporter of the chase. I know I've already said that.
Same here.
I think a big part of being, you obviously want to get off to a good start. You want to be able to get that advantage in points, but it also allows for a little bit of competition at the end. And I know some people, obviously there's a large crowd that is the full season points like, oh, well, if you dominate the beginning, you should be able to keep that advantage. Exactly. And while I do agree with that, it still gives you a bit of an advantage. But it also doesn't eliminate people who may have had a couple bad races or a bit of a slump in the middle of the season when all it takes is a couple races and you're right back in it. So I'm a fan of the chase. I think it works out, but I also agree with you. If they win, if he goes out and wins, Kyle Larson 9 races and then somehow does it. Also, let me just put this out here. I think it'd be very difficult to live in a world where he has 9 and doesn't win.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
If you win 9 races, you're not having a slump. You're not winning like 9 races in the first, 20 and then not winning for the rest of it. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Exactly.
Like, you would have to have such a massive collapse for that to happen, to the point where I would honestly argue that it's your fault.
That's fair. That's very fair.
If something that major happens. But I think that's also a case by case basis. It's like if we see something like that happen, you kind of go, oh, yeah, maybe he should have had this, or maybe this isn't the right way to go. But it's kind of hard to be in that situation until it happens. And like I said, I I understand that NASCAR wants to have a gimmick. You have your gimmick. Because with F1, you if someone has a dominant enough year, you can have, the last 4 or 5 races honestly mean nothing.
Or just be Max Verstappen and just win every race but
Who
three
I'm
in a
talking
year.
about, like
Yeah.
it's just. But then when you go to NASCAR, you had the playoffs, and I understand why they made the playoffs. But at the end of the day, like so many people said over the years, it doesn't really reward that consistency. And I think the chase is kind of the perfect mix of both. Like I understand the argument for playoffs, I understand the argument for full season points, but the perfect way to make both of those sides like partially happy is the chase. And I do think that at the end of the day this is going to be the right decision, and I do think that we are going to have a worthy champion. But at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, that'll be a conversation for the off season. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
exactly.
But I think it'll be really tough to have a year like Kyle Larson had and manage to not win or at least be super close to winning.
Yes.
Like it would just be super difficult. But we'll see. We
Yeah.
shall see.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. We'll go ahead and take that as the final words here, but this has been the Bluegrass Burnouts YouTube channel's Week 3 Power Rankings. Thank you guys for watching. Like we always say in these videos, please let us know how we did, but you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do, so I'm probably not going to change my ranking because you say this, or that. But thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We will see you guys later.